All right, 3, 2, 1. We are live, Ryan.
All right, man. Episode 37. We're here. We are, what is that? Like 3/4? There's 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
So 37 is around 3/4 of the way through the year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, big news for you guys listening today. We broke. Guess how many subscribers?
You guys will not believe it.
100.
We did.
101 to be exact.
Yeah,
So
37
all
weeks.
101 of you, thank you so much for trusting us with your time.
Yeah, exactly. Subscribing, like when you subscribe on YouTube, there's a lot of people that I don't subscribe to, but I watch all the time, right? So those 101 people that subscribed, really appreciate you because they didn't have to. They could just like, oh, it pops up on their feed.
I keep forgetting to subscribe. There's things I look it up all the time and then I get into the video. And then
You haven't even subscribed?
Oh, to my own stuff. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Maybe it'll be 102 by
Yeah,
then.
I might not have. I have like 5 emails.
Right? I'm going to sign up with all of them. Be at least 110 by the time this comes out. Oh, man.
Well, thank you again, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. That goes into our topic too.
Yeah.
Which will be revealed after we continue our tradition of
37.
yearly stuff. This one was interesting for me too, because I was trying to think, man, what did I do at 37? It all kind of blends into like late 30s. And then I realized that was the year that I bought my Lamborghini.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. It was late. It was 2015. And I think I got it at the end of 2015 because they just come out. They just come out that year. At least that Huracan had. And that car, well, the car, but owning that car and the experiences that allowed me to engage in and the people it allowed me to meet totally changed my life. So it was a huge turning point in kind of like my own self-perception of what's possible. Because I was like, oh, cool. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm pretty good at this entrepreneurship shit. I got my fucking business. I got my fucking, got my Lambo. I'm thinking I'm cool. But when I met people who were like really had money, I realized, man, I fucking suck. But it was a good lesson, dude, because I was getting a little full of myself and then had to meet these fucking monster business people. I'm like, oh shit, dude, all right. There's levels way beyond what I was even seeing before. And it really opened my eyes up to the possibilities and got me thinking a lot bigger, which was a really cool experience. So just having that car was a massive shift and changing point for me. So if you guys are on the fence and you're thinking, man, should I get a nice car? It doesn't have to be Lambo, just something nice, whatever nice means to you. I would say go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's not financially irresponsible.
What do you say? You might not be able, you can pay for it, but afford it, right?
Yeah, just because you can buy something doesn't mean you can afford it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. I did that with the Beamer and that was stupid as fuck.
Dude, I think that's a very important lesson that mostly guys get in that. Or the first car I got, or the first new car I bought, I was like 17 or something. And the fucking insurance is more than the car payment. I didn't count on it.
Yeah.
Dude, my insurance is like $400 a month. Like, holy crap. Anyway, so
how much is insurance for a Lambo?
It wasn't that crazy.
Oh, no.
Until I moved out to Texas, and then it fucking tripled.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, because they have, number one, they have shitty roads. And two, probably more important to the, number two is probably more important to the insurance company, but they have regular flood, like hail storms. They just come out of nowhere, and it'll completely total your car.
Oh, shit.
Like out of nowhere. So, yeah, it tripled when I moved to Texas. But then when I moved back to Texas, it only went down by like 40%. I'm like, you motherfucker.
Yeah, fuck.
That's how they get you. That's how they get you, man. Yeah, I think we did a whole episode on the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's little like turning points in your life that kind of look mile markers. You're like, oh fuck, that was a really impactful like shift or change that happened. And that car was definitely one for me, mostly just internal, changing that way I looked at things.
Because it's interesting, because like you said, it does go into today's topic. But I think it's when you do reward yourself in the right way to push you to go that extra step. Sometimes it might be it's a reward. You're like, oh, this is going to push me even further. But sometimes it might be like a scary reward where it's like, I don't know if I can afford it, but if I take this jump, it's going to push me to make sure I can, So it's like that aspect.
Sometimes that's the perfect distance to jump.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a stretch.
Yeah.
And if you pull it off, you'll have a lot more confidence. Because if it's just super safe kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of boring if it's super safe. I like to push the edges a little bit,
Right.
Maybe a little bit too much sometimes, but
you have to though.
That's the fucking life, dude.
Entrepreneur.
Right. So today's topic is one that is going to be, before I say it, I want to say that this is something that I didn't think was that important. And I thought I had all figured out, and I thought I didn't need it. And I was looking for the opposite of this. The most important thing a new entrepreneur can have is a rock solid mentality and mindset of resiliency. Because until you actually go through it, you don't know how fucking hard it actually is. How many things are going to throw in your way, how hard life is going to punch you and get you fucking, throw you off track. How many things are going to pop up out of nowhere that you didn't think of. How many problems you're going to have with supply chain, product, fulfillment, customer service, partners, like everything that can go wrong will eventually go wrong. And I think if you have an understanding of the difficulties of entrepreneurship going in, it's more likely that you'll have a positive outcome on the end because you're not going into it blind. Like I equate it to, because I can only relate things to my own experience, so I don't like to talk about SEAL shit all the time because it's not normally relevant. But I think in this case, it might be a little relevant because when I was training for the SEAL teams or BUDS, when I was training for BUDS, I didn't know how hard it was, but it was pretty well known that it was the hardest training, in the U.S. military at least.
Yeah.
And so I was pushing myself super fucking hard, doing everything. And I have these little, go on runs, I go on swims, I have these little things like.
Is this prior to the going to BUDS? Sorry to cut you off.
I was like 18 when I was just training for.
So you're like getting, that's what I mean. Okay. So going into it, you're like, okay.
Yeah. And I didn't know what to expect. It seemed like, the Rogue Warrior books, and I got this little packet from Stu Smith, who's great. If you're prepping for BUDS, Stu Smith's got some great stuff. Still, it was 30 years later or something, but it's legit. And so I would go on there and I have these little mantras to myself, oh, I don't want to go in the water, but I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to do it later. So I got to get ready for it. And this run's a little far. I don't want to do it. And then I just be like, well, I just play over my mind. Can't stop, won't stop, can't stop, won't stop, every step. And then it was just okay. And then it became not easier, but I just slowly got better and better at it because I didn't know the exact specifications for what I was going to be required to do. I knew the basics of it, but I knew this was going to be hard as fuck. And I think because I knew that it was going to be hard, I got myself mentally prepared to go through it. If I had not been fully aware of how difficult it was, I think I would have been very surprised and kind of slapped in the face by the realities of it, and it would have been much more difficult to get through it because I wouldn't have been prepared for it. So I think whether it's entrepreneurship or life or any kind of high level military stuff or professional level sports, anything at that level is significantly difficult to achieve. You have to understand that there's a reason that they're not fucking average. There's a reason that the expectations of that program are not fucking average. So if you want to achieve that, by default, you have to understand that you're going to have to put out more than fucking average.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand how truly hard it is to get at a super top tier level, world-class level of difficulty on stuff. So they underestimate it because they see it on Instagram and TV and oh, this guy does it and he's kind of an idiot, so it should be easy. And that was actually a big problem we had with the techs because every SEAL team has tech people there that are not SEALs, but they help run everything. There's a lot of admin duties and supply chain. There's a lot of other duties that have to do with that other than actually shooting things.
Yeah.
So, but what happened, people would come from the fleet, they get attached to a SEAL team as a tech. And then not just that, but also people who have a lot of friends who are team guys, but they're not team guys, and then they go through training, tend to have a harder time because they see the people after it. They see how kind of dumb some of the, if you're friends with a bunch of team guys, some of them are, you're kind of like, man, you're an idiot. How'd you make it through training? What the fuck? Or you'll see the one fat team guy at a team or something like that. I'm like, man, that guy can make it through. I can definitely make it through. So you get this like sense of like, oh, it can't really be that difficult. Yeah. And so those people have a lower success rate going through the program because they don't fully understand how difficult it is. So I think entrepreneurship is a great mind expanding and character expanding endeavor, but I think people are going to have a much easier time. Well, not an easier time. They're going to enjoy the process a lot more if they go into it understanding that it's going to be fucking hard. And what I found is that when you're faced with something very difficult, the more you try to make it less uncomfortable, the harder it is. Yeah. Like if you know you're going to go jump in cold water and you're like, oh, and you got your little toe in, and you're like, oh, every inch it goes up your leg, you're going to be like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, it's fucking terrible. Because you're going to try to get out and you're trying to stay comfortable. But if you're like, fuck it, I know I have to do this. Yeah. If I want to achieve this, this is what I have to do. There's no excuses for it. I have to fucking do it. It's way easier mentally, just decide to do it and just fucking jump in. Just fucking jump in. It's going to suck and you're going to be cold, but that is far less miserable than doing it inch by inch and trying to fight it and be like, I'm going to stay comfortable. No, you're not. You're not going to stay comfortable. Yeah. You have to commit to it. Right. And I find that if you commit to the suffering ahead of time, it makes it easier to bear because you're not trying to fight it. You just go with it, and your mind can focus on other stuff because you're not taking up mental bandwidth trying to fight it. Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, I love that analogy of like jumping in the water, right? And you just go fast, go do it, because it's the same thing. You're like, oh, with entrepreneurship, you might put your toe in the water and be like, oh, I'll come back later and wait till it warms up. Yeah. And you're like, fuck, dude, like you just wasted more time doing that. Yep. You come back and you put your foot in, your whole foot. Dude, you could have jumped. You could have jumped that so much fast. You would have been done already. You probably been jumping back and forth now, having fun, you know? So, but it's like you just go the fast lane. Just go with
and even something as small as like taking a cold shower. Like sometimes I'll go, well, when I work out, sometimes I'll turn the water cold before I get out. And I'm always like, it's cold. Even though it's a little bit refreshing because I'm already hot from the gym. It's still like, I just have an aversion. Maybe it's from buds. I have an aversion to cold water. I'm like, I just don't want to do it, you know? PTSD from fucking cold water. So I'm like, I don't want to do it. But as soon as I feel myself like being a bitch about it, I'm like, and I'm trying to like make it just cool enough. I'm like, and then I feel, and I put my arm up and the water goes on my arm and then on my armpit and my neck. I'm like, it's good. And I'm being a total bitch about it. But I find if I just crank it, you know, not all the way cold, depending on what year it is. I'm not that tough, but to where it's like reasonably cold where I can expect like, okay, I know this level in my shower and it's going to be reasonably fucking cold. Yeah. You know, a little bit uncomfortable cold. Yeah. And I just do that. And like, I don't have a fucking choice with this. I have to do this because this is now I'm mentally like afraid of it. So now I know I have to fucking attack it. I have to do it. Yeah. And once I do that and commit to it, like maybe it's just a mind trick, but it fucking hurts less. It's way less uncomfortable. I'll just get in it and be like, cool, I'm walking around. I'm not thinking about it anymore because I made the mental shift and that commitment to just fucking doing it no matter what. And I think if you can train yourself to become a person that does what you say you're going to do and you trust yourself to do that, it makes it easier to pull your mind out of it. And you don't have to really worry about it. Like I say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fucking do it, even if it sucks. Yeah. And it's been a lot of times where I'll say something and then I'm like, I'll fucking sober up. I'm like, God damn it. I committed to this. Fuck. All right, here we go. Now I got to do it. Uncomfortable. But those are the times that you're building like your credit score with yourself and like your self-confidence that you will do what you say you're going to do.
So small exercises that just start to build up over time that you just do. Because it might sound stupid in your head, but then you don't understand the doing the reps of doing it in the, oh my God, what do you call it? The compound of it building, you know? So it's just
that's exactly what it is though. It's just reps. It's reps and reps and reps. Because that's how you conquer something, you know, relatively big, like completing buds is like, you don't just hop in there one day off the street and be like, I'm going to go do this. Like it's building and it's reps. Even when they have this thing called ground proofing where they tie your hands behind your back and tie your feet and throw it in the pool and basically you have to not die, which sounds crazy, right? But the thing is, if they just took everybody with no training and no lead up and no confidence and threw them in the pool, there'd be no SEALs. Everybody fucking die.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't work like that. So there has to be a progression, and the progression is very easy. You get in the pool and you hold your hands behind your back and you're not tied, and you have your feet. The next thing, they tie your feet, but you have your hands out. And then they're in the shallow end. They'll tie your hands in front of you and your feet. So there's a very linear progression of it. So by the time you do it, it's actually not even a big thing because you've been taught how to do it. You're comfortable with it. You have that self-confidence that you know the steps to take to save your own life. And it's actually, from the outside, they show you all the crazy shit.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, fuck, that's nuts. How does anybody do that? But they don't show the progression. And it's like you said, it's just the reps and the reps and the reps and building. So when you do get to something big like that, you're already used to it. You know what I mean? So it's not nearly as monumental as it seems from the outside.
Some people are probably thinking like, well, you just said just jump in the pool. And then you're like, but no. Yeah. But that's what I mean. It's like, but the first analogy is jump in the pool. You're being a bitch because it's cold. You've been in cold water. You already know that, right? Yeah. So it's like going into this second one where it's like, they're tying your fucking hands up. You can't just jump in. You're going to die. But it's like you already have the expertise of, it's a cold pool. It's just you don't want to do it because you know it's going to hurt. So it's like to that, it's like, no, you're prepared on both sides.
Well, it's both because I didn't start, the first hard thing I didn't do is just go jump in a fucking cold pool. You know what I mean? Like it was like, it's cold out. I'm going to go put my feet in. Yeah. And then you do that. And it's cold out. Oh, I'm going to go up to my waist.
Exactly.
When it's cold out, I'm going to go up to my chest or whatever it happens to be. But it's that progression. It's like most people don't go from being a normal person to like waking up at 4:30 in the morning and fucking chasing Jocko down the street. You know what I mean? Like that's not a normal progression. If you're used to waking up at 11 a.m., like set an alarm for 9:30.
Yeah.
Make it reasonable. 9:30 feels good. Get used to it. Cool. How about 9? Then 8:30, then 7, whatever it happens to be. But all these things are not. People usually only see the outcomes of it, and they don't see the work that goes into building up to that outcome. It's like the 10-year overnight success story. It's like, oh, it must be nice. You had overnight, you just rocket ship. You didn't see the fucking 10 years building up to this thing, this hockey stick of, whatever, in whether that's athletic prowess or military portion of training or, entrepreneurship or whatever it is. Like it really does take, like you said, reps and reps and fucking reps.
I was listening to someone, they're like, yeah, isn't it crazy? It just happened overnight. And he said, scroll down my Instagram, all the way down to my Instagram, and you'll see what day it started. And it's just like, fuck. It's so true. Like when someone says that, it's like, no, go look where it started. This was not yesterday. This wasn't a week ago. This was like 5-10 years ago. It's crazy.
Well, like all the videos, I was just looking at some videos because those 101 of you that actually subscribed to us, thank you. We got some more stuff coming your way that I think you guys are really going to dig. And a lot of it has to do with video because we got best video producer in the world right here. There you go. Right. Yeah. Visionary collective. But we have a lot coming out soon. So I went back through my old videos and was looking through them and trying to pull some nuggets out that were going to be reword or update. And I was like, dang, dude, like I thought these videos were fucking fire when I first put them out. Now I'm like, dude, I'm kind of super cringy. I'm like, dang, bro. It's like, it's good information and I'm right about most of it. But I'm like, dang, that's like, man, the presentation, I look like such a fucking pencil neck dork. I'm like, wow, all right. I guess there's two ways to look at that. One is, wow, I suck. I should pull them down. Or two is, wow, I'm really glad the progress I've made in the last 5 years. But I leave them up because I think it's good for people to see that there is a progression to this. Right. You don't just come out of the gate swinging and doing awesome shit. I mean, I think we're doing awesome shit now, but I hope we look back on this in 5 years and like, fuck, we're so much better.
Yeah,
right?
Dude, yeah.
That's the goal. And I think if people gave themselves permission to start smaller and to fail more often and to just get in the fucking ring and just do something, just take that first step, you're going to find that you're going to suck in the beginning. And that's completely fucking fine. In fact, it's normal. It is abnormal to not suck, but you have to put in the work. It's like a baby crawling, right? And you're like, baby's crawling around and like, oh, it's hard to learn to walk. Right. You see babies struggle with it. And like, fuck. But you can imagine a baby just threw in the towel like, well, fuck it, I ain't learning to walk. And there's some adult like crawling to the grocery store like,
what are you doing?
No, Doug? Right. You're like, what are you doing, bro?
Couldn't do it.
But a baby looking at a person like walking or sprinting or athletic, I'm like, how do you do that? It seems so fucking monumental. And in reality, dude, it's just reps. It's just reps. You just got to I mean, I guess in this case, literally take the first step and then just keep going, man. And there is a progression to it. And it's very, if you look at anything big that's been built ever, there's always a very logical, very methodical progression up to where it is now. But I think people want that instant satisfaction, and that they're just not willing to do the work, and they get impatient. Because I know even now I'm super fucking impatient. I'm pissed off about where we are in our business because like we're not where I want to be.
Yeah.
You know,
I went on a rant not yesterday, a while back. And because people were talking to me and they're just talking about like social media, and they're like, when I go on social media, it doesn't pump me up.
It's not supposed to. What are you talking about?
But no, in the aspect of like, because I understand where they're coming from. Because like you're like you see someone have the Lamborghini, you see someone with that lifestyle, like I want that, right?
Yeah.
And you go and you're like, fuck, like they've just posted a high life, like you, and then you feel like shit because you're not there, you know. So I tell people, it's like, if it's not doing you any good, if you're following all these people that are so much better than you, and it's not like making you feel better about yourself, then fucking stop following them. In the aspect, to me, that's just how I would look at it. The moment or like take a break from social media, because you have to understand you're not where they are, but most of them were at the point you were, but they're just showing the highlight because that's what people want to see, you know? So, but to me, I'm like, dude, take a break from that shit because it's not real. Like majority of that shit, even like the artists, the rappers, all those like musicians, you're like, oh shit, how do they pay it? Like you don't know their contracts. You don't know how that shit works. You don't understand. Like things like that.
A lot of that stuff is definitely not real.
Exactly. But these young youth think it is, you know? And it's like, nah, man, like that's not even their money. That's the record label's money, and they expect that fucking shit back.
They just borrow
it's a bank.
Borrow a sports car for a video or something.
Exactly.
And they don't even own it.
No. And it keeps going. And it's just like, even entrepreneurs, you see these kids are 18 years old, just out of high school. You want to see how much I made? Like $5 million in a year? How much was that profit? Like they don't tell you how much profit that was, but they'll sell a course that made them 500. You know, it's like all this shit.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like shit. So it's just kind of like, take a step back from that mindset where it's like, you're where you are. That's okay. You're not in the best spot. But you don't have to always just look at other people's success and be like, oh, that's success, you know?
And that's one dimension of success too. Because a lot of those people, if you haven't had a chance to hang out with a lot of like really successful people, you might think because money does solve a lot of fucking problems. It really does. And being poor fucking sucks ass. So I get it. I grew up most of my life poor. But if you haven't had the chance to hang around like truly successful people, you might think that, I'd be happy with this amount of money. Their life must be awesome, this and that. Like everybody has fucking problems. Everybody. I don't care how much money you have. Like fucking Jeff Bezos, like got divorced. He was the richest man in the world at the time and got divorced. Like that, like money does not solve all your problems. It solves a lot of things. The things that can be solved with money, yes, it brings up new problems, but you can usually figure out how to solve those. You have good people around you. But there are certain things that no amount of money will solve. So I think it's very good to chase monetary freedom. Yeah. I don't want to say success because that's so relative, but like whatever amount means freedom to you, because it frees you up from the mental bandwidth of worrying about like, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to fucking put food on the table? How am I going to do this? And it's so stressful to be in that. Yeah. But once you're beyond that, it really frees you up to look at what else you want. And sometimes a lot of people, man, like have really great lives and they don't need to chase this other thing that like you might see somebody who's say making $1 million a month or something like, fuck, that guy's awesome. He's killing, must have a great life. I want to do that. I feel like shit because I don't have that. But in reality, like maybe your business and the way that you built your life is great. Maybe you have a great relationship with your wife and your kids and you have time and you've built balance into it. So your success over all the metrics that define like a life of success are better than theirs. They might have, way more success in one dimension of money, but if the rest of it isn't balanced out to where it makes you happy and fulfilled, then that's not really success. It's only one dimension of it. And I think a lot of people get, just so caught up in that because they say comparison is a thief of joy. And dude, there's two ways to look at it. You can look at it like, oh, I don't have that. It makes me feel bad. Fuck that person. And then you're angry. But I feel like just because you turn off Instagram doesn't make it go away.
No.
Like you'll see somebody driving a car, you see somebody dating a hot chick, or whatever the things that you feel like you're lacking, you'll see somebody living that life. And so I think it's dangerous to let yourself dwell on that. I think the sooner you can shift your mindset to like, look, I don't have everything that I want yet. Yeah. And you know what, that person probably doesn't either, but they do have this one thing that I think is fucking awesome. And I love to go after that and figure out how I can add that into my life.
Yes.
And I think if you approach it like that, oftentimes you'll find yourself in conversations with these people who do have that. Yeah. And then they can hopefully teach you how to do that. And oftentimes you'll find that there's a lot of things that you can give back as well, whether it's perspective or guidance on other things or things that they're weak or that they're lacking in. Maybe you'll find that you're strong in.
Yeah. And a huge thing too, I love it. I grew up in film and documentaries, so I understand it. But a lot of people don't. Is like going back to my point where I didn't say quit your social media and not follow those people in the aspect. Understand who those people are, right? Yeah. Read books about these people because they don't have a great story. Like they have great stories. And I mean in the aspect, they went through the shit. Yeah. The ringer. And that's who they are today. But you just see the highlight. You didn't see what they had to go through before. Watch documentaries. Read their books they wrote. Listen to the stories that they're telling you that they have out, but you're just only watching the good shit. Yeah. And that makes you might feel like, oh, I'm not good enough.
And everybody shows, like even the stuff that I show on my Instagram, like it's real. Everything's real, but it's just the highlights. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't show the things when I'm sitting by a campfire. I'm like, fuck, I'm not this. I'm not there yet. I'm not this. Like, what the fuck? I'm having this problem or that problem. Like, I don't share that shit because I don't want to. That's not what I use social media for. And I generally don't follow people who are commiserating. Like, once in a while you're sharing, something that's relevant to you. That's totally fine. Yeah. But if all your posts are like, oh, woe is me, poor me, blah, blah, like that's just a mindset issue, dude. Like that's not an external problem. That's an internal problem you need to fucking fix.
Yeah. I think it's true. Like you said, like these things you could show like the Lambos, you could show like the houses you have. But I think that like the biggest post that like do the most is like me 10 years ago. Like at the like on a laptop, like in a small bed. People are gonna like that shit because you don't really talk about it. But when that does come up, it's like, fuck, he's just like me. And he had that mindset. He got beaten down.
I think it's important to share too. I should probably do more of that. I think like there is that thing though, because you're living your life, so you think that everybody follows me, knows everything about my life, and they know like 1% of it because it just people don't give a fuck about other people as much as they care about their own life. Yeah. So that's something that I should probably do is share more of that. Like I remember, I still have. We just moved our offices around today. And I still have the first desks that I had in our very first year in business at industry. It was in the break room of the print shop we were working with at the time. And the break room was smaller than our office bathroom now, like half the size of it. There was like room for my little desk and like a microwave. And that was it. Yeah, and we were doing, I think like over $1 million in that one little thing. I had a laptop. And I had a desk and no overhead, which was fucking amazing at the time. Yeah. Now we do, significantly bigger company, but the problem is we have all this overhead, we have all this shit. And, that's my own problem because that's the way I built the company. But that's because I was like, at the time, like grow. And then we grew. And I'm like, fuck, we have so much overhead. Yeah. But this is why you should listen to all the podcasts so I can tell you the story of how I stepped in that fucking pothole. So you guys don't have to step in the pothole. Keep your overhead low. God damn it. Speaking to myself 3 years ago.
I know people are like, hey, you say like, oh, people follow me if they know what I'm doing. So, oh, you have a podcast?
I know.
I'm like, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, duh. I'm like, yeah, like I do. You follow me, I post. But it's true. Like some people just don't pay attention. They don't give a fuck. They don't care.
And they shouldn't, dude. They shouldn't. And
it's just in your head,
I know it's only in my head because I don't want to be repetitive. I don't want to say the same thing over and over again. But I'm like, you know what? That's just me thinking that. That's not how people actually view it. There's very few people that actually know all the shit that I've put out, even though it's all public. Yeah. There's nobody's following my shit that closely, like whatever. So if you're worried about your own social media and how you're interacting with social media, dude, just post what you like. I post maybe once a week. I post a lot of stories, just things that I find interesting or funny or, parts of my personality. And sometimes I'll post like once or twice a week on the main post, but that's just kind of that's comfortable for me in the way that I choose to interact with Instagram. And I had a lot of great conversations on DMs, and I watch a lot of stuff, and I find it very interesting. But to me, that's how I've managed social media in a way that's beneficial to me without getting washed out with like all the negatives and all this stuff. But I think it starts with that framework of having a positive mindset of like, how can I progress, and how can I add to my skill set or my position or my character by doing these things that are difficult, knowing that. That's why I also think it's very important to have a massive goal, so you have a direction to go in. Because if you don't have a goal of like, hey, I want to get better, I want to make $1 million a month or whatever it is, you don't have that goal. Why the fuck are you reading books about entrepreneurs? Like, why the fuck are you doing any of this stuff? Like, if you're not willing to do the work to climb the mountain to get there, then that's totally fine. But like, don't try climbing the mountain if you don't want to get to the top.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, if you just want to go hang out on the base, that's totally fine, dude. Like, there are plenty of other ways to find fulfillment and make enough money to have fun and have a great life without taking the entrepreneurship path. And I think a lot of people fall into that. I think a lot of people try to become entrepreneurs because it's like sexy and cool for whatever reason, but they really shouldn't be. You know, they'd be great like entrepreneurs, or they'd be great working for somebody else, or they just. I think if they were more honest with themselves about what they really enjoy out of life, it's a very specific searcher type mentality that I've seen most great entrepreneurs have, where they're trying to get better. They're actively trying to get better. And they all have this positive mindset of like, fuck, bad shit happens. What can I take that's good from this and add it and keep adding and adding and building your character to where you're fucking unstoppable, you know, where the things that, you know, would hurt you 10 years ago, like they just bounce off you.
I like what you said about like climbing the mountain. If someone said, hey, Coda, like you're going to go do Mount Everest, I'm like, oh, okay. But I don't know, like I don't have the eagerness to go do it. Yeah. You know, so, but there's people out there that are willing to do it. I might go and get to the base and be like, fuck, like I'm not prepped for this. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't care to go do this, you know? But there's people I could get halfway there and be like, fuck, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah. Compared to some people will get to that same spot halfway and be like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah. But then they'll be like, that's why. And I was going to talk about like your why, you know, and your mindset, like in entrepreneurship is understanding your why.
Well, I think that's why I say like self-awareness is a superpower. Because somebody say to me like, hey, you want to climb Everest? Like, fuck, no, I don't. That sounds miserable, dude. No, thank you. Send me a picture from the top. I'll like it on Instagram. That's all I want to do. Totally fine.
But like you said, like the idea sounds cool. Like in that moment, it's like, I want to say I did that. Yeah. But is that who you are? You know, like, have you been
Well, the thing is, that's who I am now.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But if I hadn't have gone through SEAL training and had that kind of become the pillar that I built my like self-confidence, started to build my self-confidence on, if I hadn't have done that, I probably would say yes. I probably would go try to climb Everest, because I think it's very important that people have something truly difficult that they can measure their kind of difficulty with. And climbing Everest is one of the hardest things you can do in the world. It's very dangerous. And if you get through with that, I think you should have a certain amount of like self-confidence and pride and, you know, congratulations to yourself. And I think that's a great baseline to have the self-confidence that would serve you very well in life. Fortunately for me, I just went through BUD/S at 19. So that kind of filled that hole in my sense of self, which is good. That's why it allows me to say no to climbing Everest. And like, hey, you want to go? Like, even I go to the gym and they have these cold plunges. Like, hey, you're a SEAL for some reason. I guess they follow me on SEAL. They didn't know I'm a SEAL. I was like, hey, this is your thing. You want to climb in there and go in the cold water? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I do not. I don't even take baths, bro. Not even warm ones. I don't go in the ocean. I don't do shit like on purpose anymore. I do not go in the ocean on purpose anymore.
They said this is your thing.
This is your thing. I'm like, bro,
bitch, what?
No. I'm not doing that at all.
That's why like, people, not close, but some people are like I'll be walking out like with my friends and like at an amusement park. Hey, can you take a picture of us? Yeah. Somewhere over, you're a photographer. I'm like, okay, it's a phone. Anyone can take a fucking.
It's totally different. It's got the Midas touch.
Yeah. It's like so stupid, but it's your thing. That's funny.
But I think that's very important though. Like when you're younger, I think it's easier to do those things and you have more runway afterwards to make use of it. But if, even at, 44 now, if I hadn't done it, I would feel like I would at least have to go try just to fill that gap and fill that hole.
I want to talk about this, I think, a good transition into someone maybe my age, maybe the three ages, right? Someone that's 17, they're still in high school. Someone that's my age, maybe going into their 30s soon. And then someone that's maybe 45, 50, right? It's all a different mindset going in entrepreneurship, right? You might have someone that's my age that let's just maybe just graduated college, still doing their 9 to 5, but they want to take that jump, right? They don't have kids yet, nothing like that. They're not married. Then you got an older
perfect time,
yeah, right. And then you got the older person that has kids, right? They're in middle school and they have a 9 to 5 in the family that they have to take care of, but they want to go do that.
A lot more responsibilities.
Like, what's your opinion on like that? Because if you had to go there,
it depends what you want out of life. I think if you really feel like you have a calling for entrepreneurship and like you're just pissed off working for other people, like I think most entrepreneurs would be terrible. Like most true entrepreneurs would be terrible employees because most bosses are terrible leaders. So I know as an employee, and even when I was in the military, I was so fucking annoyed and frustrated with the higher ups because they do shit that made no sense, no fucking sense at all. And be so frustrated that I knew what the right answer was because it was so obvious. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do the thing. And then even having jobs, you know what the right thing is to do, but you're not allowed to do it because bureaucratic red tape or whatever it is. So I think if you have that in yourself where you know that you are fucking unhappy taking bullshit orders that you know are not true, and you really think that objectively, you really think that you could do a better job, provide a better service, and have a better opportunity doing your own thing, then yes, I think entrepreneurship might be a good path. But you have to approach it differently when you don't have any responsibility and you can just pick up and, I remember when I was 17, left the house and threw everything in the backseat of a pickup truck, or no, I didn't even have a backseat. I had a regular cab in the bed of the pickup truck, fit under the tonneau cover, like my bike, all my everything I owned in the world fit under the tonneau cover of my pickup truck. That was awesome. I just took off to Mammoth and was like, fuck, I'm going to go be a snowboard bum for a year. I did. Wow. It was great. And I went to Havasu the next year. So I'm going to go be a jet ski bum for a year and did that. And it was fucking awesome. But then I was like, well, who am I? And I don't want to be a fucking bum traveling around the world. What am I going to do with my life? And then that got me on the path of finding, the journey of becoming Navy SEAL. But it's easy to do that shit when you're younger. And I think it's important to do it when you're younger. But if you haven't done it and you find yourself in a position where you have a lot more responsibilities, you can still do it. I think it just might take a little bit longer because you have to set up safety nets to make sure that if you fail, things are set up for your family. Like if you fail, like your kids aren't gonna be on the street. So it might take a little bit longer to get those things set up. So maybe you need to get further in your job and make more money, or stay in your job longer to get more money to provide a safety net, and be realistic with your family about what it is and tell them, like, make sure you have a spouse who supports this. Because otherwise, if this significant other in your life isn't on board with your journey, you might jump. And even if you succeed in that if that's not what they want, they're going to be extremely uncomfortable with it and they're not going to like it. And you might succeed in one aspect of success, and get financial success and build your business, but you might wreck your fucking family, So what do you really want? How do you define success? The other option is that your significant other becomes a huge part of the business, like with Disney. The other option is that maybe you're with the wrong person and you get divorced.
Yeah.
And I think far too many people stay with the wrong person in their life just out of like, oh, the kids and this and that. Big bullshit. Kids are fucking resilient. And honestly, like my mom and my dad were never married, and my mom's divorced and everything. So like I've never had that like nucleus family. And I think that's fine, dude. Like people underestimate how resilient kids are, and you don't have to fucking care. And also I think it's a dangerous precedent to show kids that kids run the world and that you make your decisions as an adult based on the kid's whims. Right. So I don't think it's a good example for a kid to see their parents who generally don't like each other and don't want to be together. Oh, we're just staying together for the kids. That's probably not a really good example to set for your kids. I know I wouldn't respect my parents if they did that, but what my parents did is they're honest. Like, hey, I'm not with your father, I'm not with your mother because I don't fucking like them. And here's their own reasons why. Totally fine. But they've found happiness in their own way. And now they're both extremely happy with amazing people. And I think that's a much better example to set for your kids than staying together and being fucking miserable for the kids. Like that's not a good example to set.
Because they're around that. They can set.
Kids fucking smart. Know, dude. They are. They'll ask some fucking deep, pointed questions, dude. Oh, yeah, dude. And if you don't have the answer, they'll rip you apart.
Dude, it happened to me. My parents are just like, first time I heard the word divorce, I was like 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like, oh, then they finally did it when I was like 16, 17. So I was like, I became numb to it. But you're right. It's the same thing where it's like, I don't care. Like, you guys fight all the fucking time.
Yeah.
You know, but they stay together for the kids. You know? And
divorce is not, people are like, oh, divorce or broken home. Like bullshit, dude. Like that's just a kid's excuse for being a little fucking brat.
Because to me, it's a little off topic, but I think it's like what we talked about with the older parent that wants to maybe go do entrepreneurship. It's like kind of like with my pops, you know? But he's just like, I think a broken home comes from like broken parents, like a broken father, a broken
that's
mom,
a good way to
right?
put it, yeah.
So it's like when my parents got divorced, my dad moved out. I would have felt like a broken family or whatever if my mom started treating him like shit. My dad just left. Mm-hmm. But when my dad moved out, he would come to like almost every football practice, like during the week when I was in high school football, just come say what's up when I was leaving the locker room for like 15 minutes. That's all he got to do. And that's what made it felt good enough. And then same with him. Like he would come on Friday nights and watch me play football. And then we'd try to hang out as much as we can on the weekends, being a kid. But it's that relationship we had. Some people are like, oh, if we get divorced, like it's going to be the end of the world for the kid. No, like you guys holding on and we watch Poison in the household. Like we can tell and that sucks. You know, it's crazy.
Dude, exactly, man. Yeah, kids are way more observant than I think a lot of adults give them credit for. And I think also a lot of adults use their kids as an excuse to not make a fucking change because the unknown is scary. And it's a big step, especially the older you are, the bigger that step is and the harder it is to do. And that's why a lot of people just don't take it at all. But now you're faced with the fucking huge weight of the burden of regret.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest problem of all, is that just there's nothing you can do about it past a certain point.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why people fucking get crumbled.
I think you start to, in my opinion, I had a great relationship with my dad when I was younger, right? And my parents, like my mom. But I realized parents don't know what the fuck they're doing. No. When you're a kid, you think parents are like gods. Like they know everything that's right.
Because you can't even cross the street on your own as a kid.
Exactly. They're like, bro, like I don't know how to do this shit, you know? Like they do everything for you. Everything. But then the older you get, you start to realize they don't know what the fuck's happening. They're just
figuring it out too. Yeah.
And that's when I turned 18, my parents got divorced. I started going to school for a semester, then I quit and I did the whole Dr. Phil thing. I was becoming an adult. And I realized my parents, I was like, I don't like the way my mom does this because she does that. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that as a parent, blah, blah, blah. But she's the best mom still. Same with my dad, vice versa. But it's this thing is like, you guys are still trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah.
You know, you guys aren't perfect at all. Like, you know, so it's like one of those things.
Same thing with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, if you're that parent out there that you're like just doing it like because your kids are going to blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, when they're adults, they're still going to know when they were kids and be like, why the fuck didn't you go do it? Like, why didn't you try? You know?
We did it for you, John.
Yeah, it's like, no, don't tell me that shit.
Yeah, that sounds like an excuse.
I don't want to hear
When you're
that.
a kid, you're like, oh yeah, I'm so important. But as an adult, you're like, I smell excuse, bro.
No, 100%. When you're an adult, you're like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah, it's funny, man. Especially now being 44. I remember, because my dad, I think, was 20 when I was born. And mom was 23. So I remember being like, fuck. So when you're 27, you would now have like, if you're my dad, you'd have a 7-year-old kid right now. So like you're just figuring shit out. And you're like, you got a 7-year-old kid who thinks you know everything. You're like, fuck, dude, I don't know. I still don't feel like I know everything. I like the point of this whole podcast and the reason I put shit out is because I know that I don't know everything, but I know that I've learned enough now that I wish I'd known before. And we're just sharing that information.
Yeah. It's a trip, man.
It's a trip, dude. There's a lot of similarities, but yeah, one thing I always used to hate it when as a kid, people would be like, well, you'll older, you'll understand when you're older. Like, and now that I'm older, I can safely say that's fucking bullshit excuse. Like there are very few things that you recognize when you're older that aren't obvious truths when you're younger too. Like, I'll just weigh your shoulders, your knees, your this. Like, fuck you, dude. I'm totally fucking fine with all my shit. I'm lifting heavier than I ever have in my life. Yeah. At 44, I'm like, well, the TRT and the HGH helps with that too, I'm sure. But dude, it's like people just fucking give up way too soon. And I think a big part of that is they don't have they don't fully understand how difficult things will be if you want to achieve something remarkable.
Yeah, 100%.
But if you do, you got it.
Exactly. It's like either way, go take that step.
Mm-hmm.
Jump in the fucking pool. Like, just go do it. And guess what? You can always get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, you're shivering and shit, and you're like, oh, I'm going to wait for it to get warmer. Like, maybe not. I'll go back in the jacuzzi.
Yeah.
You fucking did it. But try to stay in there. Try as much as you fucking can, but go try it. I don't want to be like 60 years old and be like, fuck me.
Yeah.
I wish. Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Still 60. Still got 40 years left. And you can still go do it. But it's that aspect of like, I wish I did it when I was in my 20s.
Dude,
just go fucking do it.
There's so many things I wish I'd done sooner. Well, namely like start getting into real estate.
But hey, man, like you're doing it now. You can be 70 and be like, fuck.
I know, man. Exactly.
Real estate,
Fuck, I didn't know shit at 44. Fucking whippersnapper.
I didn't know about shit about fuck. Yeah, man. It's crazy.
Well, cool, man. Well, this is an interesting episode. We went all over the place.
But I think it really stuck to mindset though.
Yeah, I didn't realize how many things were tied to that though.
Yeah, me neither.
And it's like, entrepreneurship, parenting, working for other people, challenging yourself with something hard, like just living life.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's tied to mindset. Because I think your mindset is kind of like your filter for how you view the world. And if you can slightly tweak and work on changing that, you'll affect everything that comes into your life.
Mm-hmm.
It might be the same things that come into your life, but you'll see them differently.
Right.
But it takes work to change that.
I think it's one of those things, just talking about it, we don't realize because we're always in it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you take a step back, you're like, oh, fuck yeah. Like there's a lot that goes into mindset with it, We're
Dude, I know, man.
I guess conditioned, but we still always deal with it. We just don't take a step back and really think about it.
Well, that's why I like these conversations.
Hell yeah, man. I love this podcast.
Right. Well, if you guys love this, all 101 of you subscribe. Well, if you've been listening, I think we got like 4,000 views total or something like that.
Yeah.
If you guys are one of those 3,899.
We're at like 43 now.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not going to try to do that, man. You're one of those people that listen that hasn't subscribed yet and you've watched more than 2 episodes and you dig it, please subscribe. It helps us do everything that we want to do with this. And more importantly than that, share it. If you guys follow me on social, you notice that anytime anybody tags me in the podcast, I share their stuff on my story. So you might get like 3 more people following you.
But that's the thing. Like to me, every time you do that, I'm curious. Like, oh, who did he repost? And I go check them out. So and sometimes I follow them because they have.
So if you guys
info.
dig it, post it up. And honestly, I always find it interesting where people post up the audio from it, or the place or the topic that they found the most impactful, because that lets me know and us know, like, oh, cool, this resonated the most with people. Let's focus more on this. But yeah, we want you guys to get more involved. Hit us up, let us know, and we'll keep doing this. I think as far as that's one thing I wanted to hit on too is that we're like. This is the long-term play that we're doing here. We've been in it for over 6 months now. I think like 8 months we've been doing this and we have 101 subscribers.
Right.
So when we talk about, hey, just take the first step. It's going to take a long fucking time. This is what we're talking about. So many guys do one podcast episode or one post and like, oh my God, I don't have 1 million followers. Nobody likes me. I suck, blah, blah. And you fold up shop. Like, I know it's going to take fucking years and years and years to do this. This is just part of a much bigger and broader play. But it's a key component of it. This is one of the steps on the path for us. So if you are struggling with that when you're with your own stuff, like I know Shiloh and I have talked about this on, God, what's his Instagram? We'll add it to the link after.
Yeah, link in description.
Yeah. Shiloh, it's better dads or back. Anyway, stronger dads, something like that. Sorry, Shiloh. I'll know your name, but not the thing. But that's what he talks about. Is you just got to get out there and fucking do it. And he's frustrated because his mission and message is really cool, but he's not getting the traction that he's looking for. And I tell him like, bro, it just takes a long time. You know, unless you already have a big following or something else to put it into play. Like even us, like even with my following and your following and all this stuff, we have 101 subscribers after 8 months.
Right.
A lot of people throw in the towel, but I don't give. This is the first time I've even asked about that because I don't really care because I know this is gonna be something we're doing for years, and we're walking the walk. So I hope you guys see this. If you're noticing that in your own life where you're not getting the traction that you want or you think you deserve, just keep fucking going, man.
Jump in the fucking pool.
Yep, put both fucking feet in. Cannonball that bitch.
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake.
Cool.